A Harley Davidson for under $6,000. What type of quality are we going to see there? What are they going to bring to the table? Harley is expected to call this new bike the Sprint. Today I just want to talk about what is expected of this bike, and are we going to see people, avoiding Japanese manufacturers, European manufacturers, what they have, to offer for the entry level riders, and are we going to see people switching over to Harleys for their first bike? Today we're going to look into it and see what Harley's got planned for 2026. As soon as I saw this headline that Harley was putting out a really budget bike, it honestly really scared me. Because if you think about it, Harley is putting out bikes that are $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 bikes, and they're solid, but by no means are they, very high, bang for buck, value for dollar. So what type of bike are we going to see with just $6,000? I think it's pretty obvious that this bike is definitely not going to be made in America. It would just be too costly for them. So most likely we're going to see this new Sprint produced in Thailand, maybe India, some country over in Asia most likely. And I know with the diehard Harley fanboys, hearing that a Harley is going to be made, overseas is something that's pretty, probably difficult to handle. But honestly, those older guys in that, that more core target Harley market, those guys are just always going to be buying road glides, street glides, just the stuff that's made, over here. But what really makes me wonder is this bike under 6K? Any bike right now in a dealer under 6,000 is already pretty crazy. I mean, everything is just so inflated. You see pretty much most bikes going for, over 10,000 out the door at dealers. So to get a price tag under 6K, what type of engine are we going to see in this bike? Well, going back in time, the original Sprint was actually a really small displacement bike. It was about 250 cc's when they first released it, and then I think they went up to closer to 350 cc's. So this is making me think that this new release is most likely going to be 400 to 500 cc's in displacement, and I don't think they're going to be offering any type of twin. I don't think it's going to be a V-twin configuration or a parallel twin. I think the expenses would just be too great. So we're probably going to see some relatively big single cylinder offering by Harley. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because for an entry-level rider, riding a single-cylinder bike, for me, I grew up riding the CBR 250, single cylinder, and it worked great for me. So that power plant platform is actually great for a beginner rider. Now, this idea I really think could be a bit of a home run for Harley, but a couple things definitely need to happen. One, the power plant, has got to make decent power, nothing crazy, just enough to have fun with for entry-level rider, get up to highway speeds. But the main thing is make it reliable. If Harley releases the Sprint and within a year, a good percentage of those new buyers are having to take their bikes back for recall, having engine issues, this is going to immediately ruin the name of the Sprint. So before Harley releases this, they really need to do a ton of testing, make sure the reliability is there, that this bike's going to easily go 10, 20,000 miles with relatively minor maintenance. I'm sure it's going to be tough for them to touch anything like a Japanese bike and their reliability, but if they can get close to it and, exceed potentially, manufacturers like KTM and some of the European manufacturers and their known potential reliability issues, that would be great for Harley. But other than the engine, having a great engine is definitely the first step. But the second step is make sure you use a really good design. They need to make it attractive. A few years ago, they offered this really budget bike. It was like the Street 750 and I believe the Street 500. And to me, they were just extremely ugly, just not appealing. And along with not really looking great, the people that owned them ended up not really liking them. There really wasn't a following. So kind of like with the Honda Grom, if Harley can get that Grom type cult following behind this Sprint, it could completely be a success. Maybe offer like 3 different trims, like a cafe racer, more of like a sport bike design, and then a cruiser design. If they can offer that, I think they'll be able to target the market really well while keeping that price low. So I'm excited to see what Harley does for 2026, and hopefully they can hold true to the price tag that they're reporting of sub $6,000. And what they also need to do is when they bring this bike to dealers and they have people coming to look at the bike, and they start to fill out the paperwork, they start to get more serious with purchasing it, please do not slap on a bunch of fees. I mean, if you're slapping on a ton of fees and this bike ends up being 10, 11,000 out the door, Harley is going to struggle. I mean, you're not going to be able to sell this bike. You're going to have to find a way to get this bike out the door at like $8,000 or less, ideally. Because if you're starting to approach that $10,000 mark, this Harley Sprint, just based on what is rumored, is not going to be a bike that matches the value of $10,000. But it's an exciting time for beginner riders, not even necessarily beginner riders, anyone who wants a lower displacement bike. They're super fun. KTM has so many offerings with their 390. You have Yamaha with the R3 MT-03. Honda's got some offerings as well. You just have a bunch of options out there, and Harley joining the market I think is great and can reach a new market that maybe the only way they know about motorcycles is Harley. So if Harley can target those riders, it'll be exciting to see. We'll keep following this, keep you guys updated. I think it's pretty interesting, and if they hit the dealers, we'll go check them out and I'll show you guys how they are. Let me know what you think about the Harley Sprint down below, and what you think it's going to bring to the table. Thanks for watching.